Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, and good evening. The title of my talk would be Internal Red Team Operations Framework Building Your Practical Internal Red Team. Let's move on to the intro slide. My name is Abhijith. I'm also known by the pseudonym ABX. Right now, I'm leading offensive security operations in a global fintech company. Formerly, the deputy manager for cybersecurity at Nissan Motor Corporation. Prior to that, I was working with eBay as a senior security analyst. So I have more than 10 years of experience in the information and security domain. I'm also the founder of Red Team Village community. No, it is not associated with DC. I'm also acting as the lead organizer at DEFCON Group Trivandrum. I recently started running a blog called tacticaladversarial.io, which is dedicated to adversarial simulation and red teaming tactics. Moving on to the next slide. So let's make something very clear first. I don't really want to do an introduction about vulnerability assessment, pen test, or security assessments. But I just wanted to make some statements very clear before we go ahead. So uh, a couple of things are there, just needs to be, clarified. Number one, vulnerability assessment, it is not red teaming. So you all know that, right? What is vulnerability assessment? So it's like, if we are targeting a system, application, or a network, so we will be listing out all the possible vulnerabilities in there, and the POCs for the vulnerabilities, how to remediate these vulnerabilities, everything would be there. So that is what basically vulnerability assessment is. So again, vulnerability assessment, it is not red teaming. The next slide. Again, pen testing, it is also not red teaming. I'll tell you something. Pen testing, on the other hand, it is more focused towards a goal. Maybe we are targeting an application or infrastructure. Our only goal would be compromising that system and get access to that system. So the pen testing report it should also reflect the same rather than listing all the vulnerabilities. Because I'll tell you, the reason behind that. So we are facing a problem right now. Nowadays, we cannot differentiate between vulnerability assessment and pen testing reports. So usually, vulnerability assessment report, uh, we are expecting it to be having all vulnerabilities which may be exist in the target system. A pen testing report, it may list all the vulnerabilities in the target system instead of the exploitation and how the attacker got into the system. Like the actual attack path would be there. So that would be the core difference between VA and pen testing report. So also I used to see external pen testing reports, with SSL issues only. Like instead of listing down the attack path and how they got access in the system, nowadays the modern pen testing report, they are only listing a couple of useless vulnerabilities. Not, I'm not supposed to say useless, but something like low severity vulnerabilities instead of the actual exploitation path. It is kind of confusing now. We cannot blame anyone here. By quoting them, but it is what happening nowadays. I also want to point out once again, pen testing is also not red teaming. Next slide. So we have a very cool definition, from the redteams.net blog. It's like historically, red team originates from the military terms, which would imitate the role of adversaries. They will try to mimic attacks against the military bases or other targets. So based on the outcome, like based on the findings which they had revealed, they would be increasing the defense and security measures at their base. So actually, the term red team, it originally came from military background. Then we have another explanation here. This is also taken from redteams.net. So in case of that's a very simple explanation. A red team is a group of highly skilled people that continuously challenge the plans, defensive measures, and security concepts. That is pretty simple. So in case of pen testing, there is a well-defined target and a goal. It is more into goal-oriented. For example, an application. When it comes into red teaming, this is very much full scope adversarial simulation. So the adversaries, they could target infrastructure, applications, or surveys, even employees, physical, office premises, etc. So they will be having a set of objectives, very hardcore objectives, which will be focused on actual adversarial attack scenarios. They'll be working based on their goals, based on their objectives, but which is not similar to pen testing. It's like like I mentioned before, this is like full scope. We are not limited to perform assessment against an application or a server. We are targeting the organization in every aspect of its business continuity or business range. So this is also called adversarial simulation along with the term red teaming. Basically both are the same. That is what I believe. Moving on to the next slide. I think you have seen this picture, right? For example, a security sales guy from the security company called XIC is saying that our red team will be doing pen test and vulnerability scanning for the clients. So usually the security services or sales executives, they are doing this. I'm not mocking anyone here. It is also very sad that many people are seeing red teams as pen test testers. So by using the term internal red team, they are actually meaning internal pen testing. That is not true. That is what I'm trying to establish here. To explain the actual job along with red team professional, for example, their title is like a red team professional or red team operator. So along with that, many security folks are also using the term adversarial simulation specialist or adversarial simulation, professional in their, LinkedIn or resumes. So I have recently seen a couple of similar job titles in LinkedIn.com, which is using the title adversarial simulation instead of red teaming or instead of red teaming tactics or something like that. Moving on to the next slide. So I really wanted to show off this image. This is the perfect symphony between attackers and the defenders. The blue teams and red teams. So we created this picture, for a CTF competition at a conference called Kokon, which is one of the biggest cybersecurity conference in India. So it was created based on the native Kerala martial art form, Kalaripet. This is something similar to other martial arts, but it is very old. Which is it is traditional martial arts in our location, which is Kerala. I think you like this picture. We are also allowing this picture to be downloaded as a wallpaper. Maybe I can share you that link as well. Okay, let's coming back to the actual topic here. Let's go and build an internal red team. So most of the things mentioned here, it is from my own experience and the awesome contributors of the security community. So let's say most of the let's say most of the companies, they already have their own AppSec and internal pen test team, right? So what if they want to move to a more matured attack simulation activities? So they are already, established their AppSec teams or internal vulnerability assessment or pen test teams. So now it is the time to, move on to a more matured, offensive team, a more matured attack simulation or adversarial simulation team. So I think this talk would be helpful for such people who are planning to organize or implement such kind of internal offensive team. Here is a very quick diagram. This is still a work in progress. So we have created something called internal red team operations framework, which can be said as IRTOF. So we devised, the functions or activities of internal offensive team into, 5 different phases here. I think, you guys seen this, maybe you guys have seen the picture from Superman movie or something, from the crawling stage to the flying stage. So we have used, we took the idea from there, and based on that, we have divided the actual operations into 5 different steps. Uh, Moving on to the next slide. I mean, the very first slide of IRTOF, the phase on crawling. So this is a very, very basic step of IRTO, internal team operations framework. Let's say building from the scratch, building the team from the scratch. The very first thing would be get the budget approval. So if you're planning to build the team, budget is always important, right? So you need the budget to get the tooling, hire the talent, and all those things. You need internal budget to be approved. So get the budget approved and define practical goals and objectives. The objectives must be crystal clear because each organization has different set of crown jewels. It may be their sensitive data or their assets, their formulas, their IP. So there is a difference between, each company. So it is, secondly, rules of engagement. That is also an important thing, based on the organization and their, culture or work culture that may differ. That may differ. It's like also, getting assistance from the legal department and management. That is very, very critical. Then understand the current existing, security posture of your organization. Because to have an internal red team, you need to find out what are the security measures or different systems which is already there in your company, already there in your organization. It is always not about owning the domain admin or obtaining domain admin credentials. It is always about the critical assets or crown jewels of an organization, of your organization. So the critical assets needs to be identified. Critical people needs to be identified. They are more vulnerable to an attack, right? So all these things comes under understanding the security posture of the organization, existing security posture. And finally, hire the talent, aka the red team. That's one of the biggest step in phase one. Hire the talent because you need to have experienced people so that you can move on with the team implementation, right? Next slide. I think you have seen this, series, the A Team. That is very, very awesome. It's a very awesome series. I really like it. So it's like the team and skill set. So this is the most important part to build an internal team. Because just imagine you have everything. You have tooling, you have budget, you have like office, very, very cool office premises, but you don't have that. I mean, you don't have the very skilled people, in red team tactics or adversarial simulation. So that is not going to do well, right? So this is very important. This is the most important part to build an internal red team. So just look at a team. This is how a team should be. The team must be diverse, skilled in different areas of attack simulation or adversarial simulation. So they will have to work together as a team or work solo and work under excessive amount of pressure because this is very much important to have the ability to work under pressure nowadays. That is very important. As you know, like Colonel Hannibal, he is also a leader and sometimes he's also act as a solo player. He get things done single-handedly. The A team, they are strong individually and they are stronger as a team. So that's how a team should be. So each team member covers his teammates' weakness and other issues and enhances them. The team should also contain non-technical people. That is also critical because just imagine, a hardcore technical guy is writing a phishing campaign or phishing campaign email against a bunch of business executives. Because being technical people, being technical guys, we always have the tendency to use more tech jargon, right? We'll be using a lot of techno words in our email. So if you are targeting business executives or other normal people, it won't work that way. They will find it very hard to connect to that mail, right? So it is always important to have non-technical teams or non-technical advisors within your team, so that you get an extra opinion from an outside guy, and also you can use their skill set to a handful of things. That is also important. Moving on to the next slide. This is the phase 2 of IRTO, Internal Red Team Operations Framework. It's like So we need a team external infrastructure that includes not only infrastructure, not only cloud infrastructure. We also need domain names, email services, email hosting services, so on so. That is external infra is essential to mimic an adversary's action. So that is very much important. For the beginning, just start with open source C2s, open source command and control surveys, implants, framework, and other tools. We can modify this tooling, based on your requirement. And that's what it says here. Corporate tools or improvise open source tooling capabilities. So you should be able to modify a couple of existing open source tools and make it very useful for your existing scenario. Next point would be always be friends with your company's blue team or company's cyber defense team. It is always good to be in a very good relationship with your company's blue team or security operations team, because all of your adversarial actions, they are there to make the blue teams much stronger and enhanced. Whatever you do, that you're not attacking your own company, right? Whatever vulnerability or whatever weakness or whatever misconfiguration you find, so that is there to enhance the blue team's capabilities. So that is very much important. So once I tried to be, friends with an organization's, blue team, aka Security Operations Center, I think, I had gone too far. That is not supposed to happen, and she's my girlfriend now. That is very funny to think. So just take it an easy way. You can be friends with your blue team's your organization blue team, but just keep it on a limit. Okay, this is just a fair warning from my end. The next point. So start with adversarial emulation using so-called open source framework. We have Atomic Red Team here. We can Caldera here. It's like Mitra is your friend. So they have all the resources in the world to help you with adversarial emulation and APT emulation. So this would help you to understand the detection capabilities of your antivirus and EDR products, along with your SOC implementation, like log pooling implementation. So how much of these activities are being logged and being detected by your blue team? How many of these attacks were blocked by your antivirus? How many of these attacks, like sensitive actions, was blocked by your EDR software? So these kind of things can be understandable from adversarial emulation or APT emulation. You can also validate current defense mechanisms with a blue team by the help of Mitra attack matrix. The next point, start with simple and pretty common phishing campaigns against your employees. You don't have to raise the quality here. Just start something simple, maybe easy to recognize from an employee's perspective. So just start simple and pretty common phishing campaigns. You could just classify the ranks of your employees based on their levels, right? And you can try various levels of phishing campaigns against your company's employees. So it will help you to understand the response from your victims, so that we can validate your organization has a mail or fishy sites filtering of, for example, a web proxy, to filter new or unrecognized websites, or there is a mail filtering mechanism to filter suspicious emails. So you can validate all these, security measures by performing such kind of phishing campaigns. You can also use these findings to improve the existing defense mechanisms. Just keep in mind that both systems and the people, it needs to be enhanced, like, people awareness and systems enhancement. That needs to be done here. Next one would be external attack surface discovery and mapping. So we know that I think most of the people, they know this part. So it is very much important to identify the internet-facing assets of your organization, which should help the adversaries to gain a foothold into your network. So you see, it is always a good thing to map the attack surface on the perception of an adversary. Then designing a remediation process to address issues. So that should be there. That must be there. All these findings and all these issues, or there must be a very well defined remediation process to take care of all these issues. Now the phase 3. So this is where we begin to work as per our IRTO plan. So we can use improved tools, techniques, and procedures. So we know about the current security mechanism from the phase 1 and 2. So what if your organization is not allowing partial or any other scripts because you are trying something internal, like you're trying to run some tools on assuming using an assumed breach scenario in a user's laptop or a server. So what if your organization is not allowing partial or any other scripts? So you can just try the next best thing, right? We should find the next feasible option. In this case, we can try unmanaged PowerShell. It may be the defense teams are not considering the use of unmanaged PowerShell. So that is just the basic improvisation of existing tools and scenarios, just to make sure what is the actual limit of your security products. For example, it is blocking PowerShell, but if you are using unmanaged PowerShell, we are able to execute PowerShell commands, right? So that is not good, right? So by doing this, by doing step-by-step modification and step-by-step testing, we can understand that what is the actual capabilities of our security implementation. So try to bypass your EDR and antivirus software continuously. It would benefit the defense team and systems very much. So that is also important to be considered in phase 3. So from phase 1 to phase 3, we had identified the crown jewels and key people, right? So there should be a wonderful path, which leads to the crown jewels or the key people. Maybe there's a phishing campaign, maybe that's some weaknesses in your Active Directory infrastructure, maybe your cloud implementation. So whatever it is, the vulnerable path towards these crown jewels, it needs to be fixed. That is important. So next thing, evaluation of instant response process. So this is also important. Like what is the organization's process once it's been compromised? How much time it did take to detect the incident and respond to it? The time the defense team taken to contain the actual incident, the actual breach. So that is very much important because we always have to assume that we had breached somehow. That's a very best strategy out there because also that is the importance of incident response process. Because what if we got compromised, or what if we got breached, what if our data got breached, what is our next plan, how do we deal with this? So everything comes under this incident response process along with the roles and responsibility. So one of the goal of the red team should be testing out the incident response management process. Okay, and also we can perform automated adversary emulation and automated campaigns, or such things can be done. And we can also perform automated adversary emulation in random surveys and machines once in a while, just to assess the security teams, just the blue teams, their detecting capabilities. Also using the output of previous phases, phase 1, 2, and now 3, we could improvise and always make a new red team operations process documentation. Because from phase 1 and 2, we have learned a lot of things, right? Our company's existing security mechanisms, security existing cyber defenses, security posture. So based on that, we also did a couple of adversary emulation and campaigns and all those stuff, right? So based on that, we have a very good list of items with our in our repository. So using that, we can create an improvised set of process documentation for our internal red team operations. Moving on to the next slide. This is the phase on IRTO start running. This is where we start running in our framework. So the very first thing would be collaborative and continuous purple team exercise. I think you guys already know what is purple team is, right? So we need to have continuous and collaborative exercises joining hands with our blue team. Because like I mentioned in the previous slides, our extreme goal is to enhance the cyber defense capabilities, right? So it is very important to organize collaborative and continuous purple team exercises, and enterprise to of course enterprise tooling capabilities. So bring in more tooling capabilities. Many interesting platforms and tools are in the out there. We should empower the red team and both red teams and blue teams, because there are many ready-made tools, right? If you are like procuring that tools and using it inside your organization, the ready-made tools. So you can verify, like, how much of these tools can be, I mean, the actions of these tools can be detected by the blue teams, because it's a ready-made tool, right? It is supposed to get detected by the blue teams and our cyber defense softwares. So you can check that, and you can also use the like the enterprise tooling capabilities to extend your operations, like on a wide scale, and targeted campaigns against the town jewels and key people. In the previous phases, we did some pretty simple campaigns against the users, just to make sure that what is their response. Are they falling to these kind of very simple phishing campaigns, or are they reporting to like spam, reporting it as a spam, or reporting it to defense team. So that things has been done there, but here we can go for pretty focused and targeted campaigns against the business executives, the leadership, or the management. So we can ensure, like what is the percentage of the people or percentage of the management folks who are vulnerable to phishing campaigns, or vulnerable to targeted or spear phishing campaigns. So there are many awesome frameworks are out there. I would also always prefer to use custom phishing campaign instead of using a framework, because most of the frameworks and their headers will be detected by the security measures, and it will get blocked. So always try to make something from the scratch, and try to do it in a manual way, so that it will be more effective. So then overt physical security assessment. It is like, overt is like you're not breaking anything. You're just observing things and you're trying to find physical security weaknesses. It is like identify the most important data centers, manufacturing plants, if you are a, if you're into manufacturing, processing center, or anything based on your company's business. It may vary based on data centers, plants, and business centers, or so and so. So you could just go there officially, and you can walk around the premises with the person in charge, maybe your supervisor, or maybe your teammates, or maybe the person in charge in that facility. So you can just roam around, observe the physical systems, and maybe doors, locks, RFID, entry points, CCTV cameras, such things. So you can just roam around, and you can just perform your review in front of the person in charge. That is called overt physical security assessment. You are not, no, it's like, you don't get to break any doors or lock. You don't get to clone RFID clones. Maybe you can check for that RFID, cloning vulnerability, or, some kind of things, but you don't get to break anything, because you are doing it in an overt manner, right? So just to do a review to identify the vulnerabilities in physical systems and report it. So that is what mean by overt physical security assessments. Most of the companies are doing it nowadays. So you can refer the work of Deviant Olam in YouTube. He's best out there, in physical security assessments. That is a very good, his YouTube channel. That would be a very good reference for you. So also continuous training process for operators and defenders, because most of the organizations they have their own internal training programs and certifications for their employees, especially the teams in offensive security and in the cyber defense teams as well. So you should also always have a plan to train your employees into the new certifications and new training programs. You should be there. Also, proactive remediation process and plans, because in the previous phases we did create a couple of remediation plans, right? For example, if the red teams are coming with a couple of findings, a couple of critical issues, that needs to be remediated within a certain amount of time, right? So in order to do that, you should have a proactive remediation process and plan. So by the time we reach phase four, because in the previous slides we mentioned about creating a remediation process, right? So by the time we reach phase four, so it should be more powerful, like more proactive compared to the previous remediation process. So there is an operational security tip regarding our physical security assessments. So do not, if you are going to the, your office, I mean your company's, officers or in other locations, do not show up in a military apparel or or with a tactical backpack or a laptop with full of stickers. So do not, go into the client side, wearing any of this. It raises a lot of eyebrows, even if you are doing an overt physical security assessment. Then just imagine about, how that would be if you are doing an overt, a covert, physical security assessment. So always just, make sure to trust accordingly. So IRTO phase 5. Welcome to the fifth phase. It is the time to blow your angel wings and fly away. So this is the step, this is the phase where we would have matured the team operations. So it's like by the time you should have, by this time, by you reach phase 5, you should have or you must have significant improvement in your organization's security posture. It's like both systems and people, like the improvement of security. I mean the security improvement. You should cover the people as well as the systems in your organization. So highly skilled operators, by the time you reach phase 5, you should also have, you should also reach a level where your operators are highly skilled in different set of adversarial simulation and, teaming activities. Next point, well-defined purple team model to measure the progress of red team and blue team capabilities. So again, this should help the management to understand the gaps which are there in the organization's security posture. There is like what are the activities done by the red team, what are the activities done by the blue teams, what are the new weaknesses which was uncovered by the red teams, and what is the actual coverage for the blue team. So there should be a very matured set of a panel, like let's say a matrix, to identify, to measure the progress of each team and their campaign exercises. So it should be there by the time we reach phase 5. Next point, covered physical security assessment. So you can also start doing the covered security assessment by the time you reach phase 5. So I have added the covered assessment in phase 5 only because a couple of reasons are there. Some organizations, they have some difficulties to allow their employees to do covered assessments. The red team model needs to earn the trust and confidence of the management. Then you can move on to the covered security assessment. That would be a better approach. It is not, recommended to jump into covered physical security assessment from phase 1 or phase 2 onwards. Always just wait to gain the confidence and trust of your management. Gain some skill in, put some skill into your team operations, then move on to covered physical security assessment. That is always an recommended model. So custom tooling capabilities. Custom tooling capabilities in the sense internally developed command and control platforms, custom implants, very specific exploits, and custom scripts to automate the operations within your organization. So these capabilities must be there by the time you start to fly. And continuous adversary simulation to keep the defenders on their toes. It's like just consider it as a normal game. It's a game, a regular game, which you would play with your friends. Like you guys are detecting issues, and the blue teams are enhancing the coverage, and you're coming up with something new, like some ways to maybe, for example, some ways to bypass the EDR software, some techniques to some tools or techniques to bypass the monitoring capabilities of blue teams. So just consider it as a game. There should be a continuous adversary simulation and emulation to keep the different days updated, or that is very important. And continuous RTO, with well-defined process. So because we are, what are we doing from phase 1 onwards? We have created a RTO process in phase 1 and phase 2, and by the time we reach each phases, we are making it much better and better, right? We are just sharpening it, our internal RTO process. So just repeat the process, make this process a cycle, continuous team operations with a well-defined process. Just like I mentioned, earlier, this framework is still a work in progress. There may be some things which I am missing. I will add more stuff in, here to make the framework look much better. It's like I'm also planning to make some kind of model to make it make it very much useful and useful for the both red teams and blue teams, so that they can build a team internally and monitor the progress. So moving on to the next slide. So this is also very much important. We have strategic plans and tactical plans. So strategy plans are focusing on long-term objectives, right? So where the tactical plans focuses on short-term engagement, short and tactical engagement. So you can derive a couple of tactical plans and chain them together to reach a strategical plan. For example, in here, our strategical plan is to have a matured red team operations within your organization, right? So we can, to achieve that long-term objective or long-term goal, you can devise a couple of tactical plans. So in our case, tactical plans are each phases. So IRTO has different phases, right? Phase 1 to phase 5. So each phases can be considered as a tactical plan. So, to reach, a long-term goal, just take a tactical plan. For example, we are taking phase 1. We can consider that as a tactical plan 1. So we are taking tactical plan 1 and we are giving it as time frame, maybe let's say 3 to 6 months, for example. So within 3 to 6 months, we will be covering all the items mentioned in tactical plan 1, which is IRTO phase 1, we are calling, right? So all these items, all these activities listed in there, we can take them and we can complete them on a time frame, start from 3 months to 6 months. So after finishing that tactical plan, we can move on to the next phase, phase 2, which is tactical plan 2. So like that, you can achieve your long-term objective, based on your organization's current security posture and considering the business activities and other things. You can always devise your own plan, like, how much time which is needed to have a fully matured team, internal team operations, or fully matured internal offensive security operations. So you can set that as a strategic plan, like, a long-term objective. And you can also always use the phase 1 to phase 5, these steps to create tactical plans. And based on that, we can move step by step, right? So that is the point of creating these 5 phases of internal red team operations. And moving on to the next slide. Now this is a time for Q&A. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Like, I'll be there at Diana Initiative virtual booth online by this time. Or you can just reach me on Discord or my Twitter account, which is Abhijith B R. And yeah, thank you everyone for being here. And thank you the Diana Initiative and all of the organizers who are working behind Diana Initiative for this opportunity. I would also like to thank my teammates in Red Team Village and DEFCON Group Toronto. Once again, thank you everyone.